back to 3MVTA. I am your host, Big Jake, and today I'm bringing you my 10 favorite anime. So I hope everybody liked this. Please like and subscribe. And let's go on to a couple honorable mentions I have on here. So on here I have three. I have Death Note, High School of the Dead, and Monster Musume, Everyday Life with Monster Girls. Now I picked these as an honorable mention because I don't think they necessarily make my top 10, but they're all very good. Monster Musume, of course, is more like a slapstick comedy, fan service anime. You got High School of the Dead, which is definitely fan service, but it's a zombie apocalypse movie a zombie apocalypse series anime that follows around a group of students trying to survive. And in all reality, I mean, it's just really well done, really well rounded. The animation is great. The voice acting is really good. And it's not 100% your typical, zombie apocalypse scenario. So, and then of course Death Note. Anybody watching this video more than likely knows what Death Note is, but the idea being that Light Yakami, the main character, finds a journal called the Death Note, and whoever's name he puts in there will die, and he can even make so how they die. So he decides to take it upon himself to change the world. Great anime, great music. Was this close to making the top 10, but decided to forgo it. But if you haven't seen it, definitely worth your time, definitely worth checking out. So let's go ahead and get in our list at number 10. Number 10, we have Man Wonderland, coming out in 2011. Only one season with 13 episodes, based on the manga Man Wonderland. Probably not pronouncing that correctly, but that's okay. The idea of this anime is the main character, Igarashi, is framed for basically slaughtering his whole school class, which in all reality, it's the other main character, Shiro, which in the picture here, Shiro is the white-haired girl in the jumpsuit. And in this future, it takes place in the future. I can't remember the year, but prison is a theme park, so it pays for itself, and that was the big idea. So he goes to this, and it's called Man Wonderland. So he gets imprisoned in this theme park style prison where prisoners compete in games and stuff to survive for amusement, basically. And he's part of a group of people called Dead Men, whose actual blood gives them powers. So pretty cool premise. Shiro, some spoilers here. As it turns out, Shiro is actually the one who slaughtered his whole class and got him framed. And in the anime, they don't really dive into a lot of Shiro's character. The only thing you get is the idea that she's known Igarashi for a long time, and you find out later that they were childhood friends, and he was like her only real friend, basically. And she also has a split personality, which is kind of weird. Which once again, it only comes up like a couple times, and they don't ever explain it in the anime. But she has a split personality to where she, for whatever reason, she loves Higurashi, but she also wants to kill him at the same time. So kind of interesting, but that part of it never comes up in the actual anime. So, and I've been wanting an ending and a second season to this show, because the ending of the show leaves on a very like cliffhanger kind of ending, in the sense that nothing's really resolved per se. But yeah, I would really hope we get a second season to this to answer a lot of questions and find out, what really happens to Shiro and Igarashi. So, but check it out, and let's move on to number 9. Number 9, we have Berserk. Now, Berserk technically has 3 seasons, but I've only seen the first one, which is the original show from 97 to 98. I tried watching the second and third seasons of the show that came out in 2016. I just I'm gonna go back and try to watch it again, but when they did it, they incorporated a lot of CGI that's just really bad, which made it really hard for me to watch. So, but I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna try to go back to it because fans of the show have been dying for a proper ending to this series, because the original show begins with Guts, is what they call the Black Swordsman. He's just basically just a monster of a man that, I mean, he goes around killing bad people, but he's just a beast of a fighter, and he has like a mechanical arm and all kinds of cool stuff. He has this Dragon Slayer sword. I think that's what they call it in the show. I'm not 100% on that, but it starts with us seeing that, and then it completely goes all the way back to the beginning and tells us his journey and how he became the Black Swordsman, which is cool. But you know, a lot of us wanted to see Guts as the Black Swordsman, you know, as opposed to what led up to that, which is fine. But so basically the show just revolves around Guts as the main character, and he hooks up with a group called the Band of the Hawk, led by Griffith. Eventually, his love interest becomes Casca, and he joins the Band of the Hawk because he challenges Griffith to a duel, saying that if he could beat him, he would have to join him until Guts could defeat him in a duel. And Griffith will basically do anything and everything it takes for his group and to further his cause. And of course, at the end of it, Guts eventually does defeat him, and it sends Griffith into this like maddening spiral, to where at the end, he eventually betrays everybody, becoming one of the new gods, even going as far as raping Casca right in front of Guts, and killing all of his members of the Band of the Hawk, sacrificing them to the Apostles of Doom. And yeah, and it just kind of ends there. And then, like I said, I haven't seen really any of the new episodes, but I'm going to go back and watch it, and I'll give you my opinion on that. But the original series is just a very, very good sword and sorcery type anime. Lots of good action, lots of good fighting. The voice acting is very even and very well done. The animation is a very classic style of animation. So check it out. Just be prepared for a lot of violence. So let's go ahead and move on to number 8. And in number 8, we have Excel Saga. Now, Excel Saga is like it's like the Three Stooges of anime. And the reason I say that is because it's literally just a whole season of slapstick style comedy, but it's done in a way that it rewards us anime fans by having all kinds of anime tropes and pigeonholed characters and all kinds of things like that. The main character, Excel, works for Lord El Palazzo, sorry, who looks a lot like the big bad guy from Tenchi Muyo, and he's the leader of this group called Across, trying to take over the world, but they decide to try to take over this one city first, and go from there. So Excel is extremely in love with Lord El Palazzo, and he keeps stopping her affections towards him in funny ways, like, you know, pulling a ripcord and she goes down into a pit, and blasting her with a bazooka, and all, just all kinds of funny slapstick stuff like that. So if you're in the mood to laugh, check it out. It's 100% worth it. I wish I hadn't waited so long to actually watch the full show, but it took me forever to see it, and I'm glad I did. So let's go ahead and move on to number 7. Number 7, Samurai Champloo. This was done by the same director who gave us Cowboy Bebop, which, as we all know, is one of the most beloved anime series of all time. Now, you might think going into that being done by the same guy who did Cowboy Bebop that it would be just as good, and now unfortunately that's not quite true. It's definitely not as good as Cowboy Bebop, but it is a very well-rounded series. They they didn't have Yoko Kanno do the music again. Instead, they went a different direction. And this one, they mixed in a lot of hip hop and stuff, which is actually kind of cool because it doesn't really fit the time period, but they do it in a way that fits the narrative and like the scenes of the show and what's going on. Um, the show follows three characters: Fu, Mugen, and Jean. Fu is the girl; she's a waitress who meets Mugen and Jean, who and eventually ends up saving their life. And so, because of that, they decide to help her find the samurai who smells of sunflowers, which I believe is actually her father. Um, Mugen is the unorthodox samurai who wields a one-handed heavy weapon. Um, does like kick moves and all kinds of things. Gene is what you would think of as like a traditional samurai fighter. He's a very technically sound, very respectful, very well mannered, and that kind of thing. And so, but mostly the show itself is episodic. They don't touch a lot on the main plot. It's just kind of here or there, but it kind of works in the show's favor that way. Instead of dwelling on one main plot, we have episodic adventures of the three, and I mean, I really enjoyed it. It really works out. It was a really good show. Like I said, unfortunately, just not quite as good as Cowboy Bebop, but definitely check it out. If you just want to see the kind of thing that the guy who did Cowboy Bebop, what else that he has done, this is a good starting point for you. And number 6. Outlaw Star. Outlaw Star is definitely an infamous anime for all of us fans. A lot of us saw this on either Toonami or Adult Swim back in the day, myself included. Outlaw Star is now. There's been one thing that there's been a lot of speculation of is that Firefly was based on Outlaw Star, and I will say that the similarities are pretty like in your face when you see the series and you see the Firefly series. So don't be surprised if you're a fan of both of those and you see the comparisons. Trust me, not you're not the only one that's seen the comparisons. But it stars Gene Starwin as our hero or protagonist, who eventually actually steals a ship called the Outlaw Star and basically just goes on an adventure with Jim Hawking, who is this like little boy partner of his. Then you have Melfina, who is the android that helps pilot the Outlaw Star. You have Twilight Suzuka, who is an assassin. And then you have Hilda, who is a Kataral officer, who are cat-like creatures who have like super strength and stuff like that. So, and they encounter all kind of things like space pirates, and there's like a particular organization that's after them, and it's just a really good like space adventure show. So, and it might have the best weapon in anime history, which is the caster gun, which is literally a gun that fires magic. So pretty cool, great show. And I'm gonna go ahead. We're gonna before we move on to numbers 5 through 1, I just wanted to say that 10 through 6 pretty much could have gone in any order, but my top 5, I would say that these are my top 5 in order. So we're gonna go ahead and move on to number 5. The Dragon Ball franchise. Now, I had to include this, even though it's not nearly as good as a lot of the other animes on here. Like, really, once again, this is a case where I understand that I really like something that's not necessarily that good. But the Dragon Ball franchise is a very important franchise for a lot of anime fans out there. You know, a lot of people got into anime because of Dragon Ball Z in particular. I know me myself. Um, the big thing that got me into anime was watching Dragon Ball Z on Toonami after school back in the day, and I've been expanding my horizons ever since. You know, you have the original show Dragon Ball, which was in the '80s, and it followed Goku as a kid, and this one was like a real adventure show, and you actually get to see Master Roshi fight and train, and he meets Krillin for the first time, and Bulma and Yamcha, and he fights Piccolo for the first time, and it's just really good. I would argue that Dragon Ball itself is the better show, just because there's a lot more depth in there to the characters than just Dragon Ball Z, where it was literally just training, fighting, training, fighting. Then, of course, Dragon Ball Z is a huge show, 277 episodes. In the States, they spanned it over 9 seasons. But you can see it from 1989 until 2003. So, and then, of course, Dragon Ball Z introduced us to people like Vegeta, the Ginyu Force, Lord Frieza, Boo, Majin Buu, and it's just, and then we have Dragon Ball GT, which is kind of like I would say it's like the bastard child of the Dragon Ball franchise. Not many people like it. I enjoyed it for what it was. If you don't go into it expecting it to be as good as the other shows, it's not as bad as everybody says it is. You know what I mean? Like, the storylines they had in there were really good ideas. They just weren't as well executed as they could have been. Like, the Super 17 saga was like 3 or 4 episodes only, and it just wasn't very well done. But like the Evil Dragon saga was really well done. The Baby saga was good, but I think they spent way too much time on that and not enough time on, like, for example, the Super 17 saga. So, then we have Dragon Ball Super, which most people are familiar with nowadays, being the most recent incarnation of the franchise, when introduced us to characters like Lord Beerus and Whis, the Omni King, Hit, that kind of thing. And it's just, I mean, like I said, this franchise is just very important to American anime scene. So, don't knock it just because it's a shonen show, And I will say for the record, though, its importance outdoes the fact that it's not as good as how important it is. So, but let's go ahead and move on to number 4. Number 4, Cowboy Bebop. You knew this was going to be on the list. Arguably the best anime ever done, as far as like how good it is, how well rounded. I guess really more so as far as how well rounded it is. You got great voice acting, great music. Yoko Kanno outdid herself on this one. You got really good writing. You got great episodic adventures here. Bounty hunting in space is pretty freaking cool. You know what I mean? You got your main characters, Spike Spiegel, Jet Black, Faye Valentine, eventually joined by Ed and Ein the dog. There's nothing I can really say about this show that hasn't already been said. So I'll just say that if for whatever reason, if you're a fan and you haven't seen it, you need to see it. Like I said, it's borderline a perfect show. So check it out, and thank you. You'll thank me for it later. But let's go ahead and move on to number 3. Number 3, Overlord. I'm not going to really say too much about this since I already did a whole episode based on just this anime. But Overlord is just a great Izaki anime following Einzelgone in a brand new world, basically trying to take it over, trying to further the Great Tomb of Nazarick, following him, the Floor Gardens, Sebeth, and the Battle Maids, as well as some other characters. But like I said, I have another episode that's, if you want to know more about the show, I already did a full in-depth episode on it, so go ahead and check that out. So I will just go ahead and move on to number 2. Number 2, One Punch Man. Once again, super popular show, extremely well done. There's definitely, and as far as this list goes, this is definitely one of the ones on the list that I'll do a full episode about just on its own. But One Punch Man is just, it's just an amazing show. It's got great music, great acting. The animation is top notch. The fight scenes are great. and there's more in depth to it than you think for a fighting anime, because a lot of the show follows a more philosophical tone as far as like Saitama being One Punch Man. He uh, ends every single fight in one punch because he's just too strong, and because of that, yeah, he's a hero, but and he always when he decided to be a hero, and now he is one, but now he finds himself unfulfilled because he there's no challenges left. Um, I mean, in the show, no one even comes close. I mean, he doesn't even get injured in any fights. He never tires. He never gets injured. Nothing, and he defeats every enemy except for Lord Boros with one punch. And even in the season 2 when he fought Suyu, um, he hit him more than once, and he didn't stop him. But you can tell he was holding back. Like, he didn't go all out against Suyu. Even Lord Boros, though, at the end of season 1, um, that's one of my favorite moments. Is Lord Boros is laying there defeated, and he says, "Did I lose? I can't feel anything." Um, and Saitama says, "Yeah, you're pretty strong. Congratulations," and that kind of thing. And he said, "You were holding back, weren't you?" And Saitama doesn't say anything. He just kind of turns and starts walking away. And as he's walking away, Lord Boros' last words were, "You're just too strong, Saitama." And so that ends the first season, going into the second season. And I mean, it's kind of true, the fact that he's too strong, it makes for, you wouldn't think it would make for interesting fights. You would think they would be really boring, but the way they do them is pretty awesome. This has got a lot of great action, great comedy, great choreography. I mean, everything in it is just so well done. I can't say enough good things about the show, and I cannot wait for season 3. Hopefully we're going to get that in the upcoming year. So, yeah. And for whatever reason, if you haven't seen it, go see it. If you're an anime fan, I've seen people who are not anime fans who like this show. Even my little 3-year-old son likes it. He calls it Punch Man. So check it out for yourself. And once again, this is another show that I'm going to do an episode on eventually. So, but that will leave us to our number 1. And I hope some people are a little surprised out there. My number 1 favorite show is Trigun. Yep, Trigun, which is a anime done in a Western style. Even the director even said that he liked what he liked American westerns so much, and that's why they did the show in the style that they did. Same thing for the manga. The guy who created the manga was the same way. He liked actual American westerns, which is why they did it. Which is why he wrote it the way he wrote it. And unfortunately, another show that only had 1 season. It follows the main character, Vash the Stampede, they call him, because just unfortunately, just horrible things follow this guy around. No matter how good natured he really is, just terrible things follow him, and he can't seem to ever escape it. And the fact that he is so good natured, the way he is what makes the show so good. This is one of those shows that the show itself depends so much on Vash as the main character. Now, don't get me wrong, the supporting characters they're almost as good, like they really are, but it all hinges on Vash, and they make him so likable and such a great character. One of my favorite internet reviewers, Ben the Sage, go and check him out sometime if you're interested. He reviewed the show, and he said that for all intents and purposes, that Vash the Stampede might be the most well-written and most endearing character in all of anime, and I have to agree with that. And everything he said about it was true. The fact that Ash hides all the pain with a joke and a smile, and keeps it up, and the extreme lengths he goes to not hurt anybody because he's so entrenched with this belief about how people shouldn't hurt or kill other people. But unfortunately, that philosophy only gets him so far, eventually having to go against his own wishes and his better judgment to save the people that he cares about. And then you have Millions Knives, who's his brother, who's it's such a weird relationship. Millions Knives loves Vash as a brother, but he hates him at the same time because he's the complete opposite. Knives hates humanity as a whole, whereas Vash loves everybody. All of that was endeared into him by Rem, who was his teacher and kind of mentor, a mother-like figure. Then you have Meryl Streif and Millie Thompson, who are insurance girls who work for the Bernard Daly Insurance Company, trying to capture Vash the Stampede and stop his destruction. Even though he's not really responsible for too much destruction himself in the show, and all is crazy circumstances surrounding him. And then you have like the Gun Ho Guns, which is not. It's like a freaking Marvel or DC like villain showcase. Like it really is. Like these people they're crazy villains with powers and abilities, and like it's just awesome. The Gun Ho Guns are people like Dominique the Cyclops. You have Zazie the Beast. Excuse me. I'm trying to think who else was in there. Myth Valley, the Horn Freak, E.G. Mai, Gray, the Nine Lives. I mean, it's just, and I could go on. But, and then you have Legato Blue Summers, who I think is technically a Gun Ho Gun, but he doesn't, in the show, he's not with them when stuff happens. He's more so like the right-hand man to Millions Knives. Then you have Wolfwood, who is arguably as good of a gunfighter as Vash the Stampede, but he doesn't believe in the same philosophies quite as, whereas Wolfwood's willing to do anything to save people. Vash, more often than not, is not willing to hurt or kill. And in one episode in particular, you find they show his body, like he had just gotten out of the shower, and they show him shirtless, and his body is just riddled with scars and like metal plates and I mean, just all kinds of things, or of all the abuse he's taken over the years to try to not hurt people, to stop things from happening, and so, but yeah, Trigun is just an amazing show. I've watched the series several times, and I'll never get tired of watching it, and it's something I can watch over and over again. And like I said, a lot of that hinges on Vash the Stampede, and so I urge you out there in YouTube land to watch this series from beginning to end, because it's 100% worth it. I don't know if I don't know if it'll be your favorite, but I guarantee you'll love it. So, but yeah, and that's it. Those are my 10 favorite anime. I appreciate you watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe. Um, but feel free to leave a comment down below on what your favorite anime is, or what you may have liked about what was on the list that I created, and so forth. But next time on this show, I'm going to start doing something. I'm going to go through the consoles, the video game consoles, that I myself have personally either owned or owned at the time of their release, or what have you. And I'm going to go through my 10 favorite games on those consoles. And for the first one I'm going to do is my 10 favorite PS1 games. So, once again, I hope everybody enjoyed. And I'll see you guys. Same nerd time, same nerd channel. Have a good evening.